This is the Gridiron Kickoff Preview on WFRZ with host Sports Radio 740's Doug Amos. Co-hosting is former Auburn standout Charlie Trotman. Special guests include Sports Radio 740's Barry McKnight, John Longshore, and Josh Moon. The Gridiron Kickoff Preview starts now.
We'll start in the SEC's Eastern Division, and we usually have fans from all the schools out there somewhere, or at least I think we got in trouble with a South Carolina fan last year because we left them out of the conversation, if you don't know.
That's true.
But
that's true.
The East is strong, Charlie. I mean, when you're talking about Kentucky, who's been, to back-to-back bowl games, and Rich Brooks has done as good a job recruiting at Kentucky as anybody's ever done, and they're thinking they're going to get back to a bowl, yet they're never going to see the light of day past fifth place. I mean, that's pretty strong.
Believe it or not, at Kentucky, the quarterback that Kentucky is going to start with this year, he actually beat out Andre Woodson in 2006. And y'all know how good Andre Woodson was, had 40 touchdown passes last year to lead the SEC. And
he's got some people hurt up there, though, too, didn't he?
Yeah, but they've always had good skill position players, and I like Rich Brooks. I think he's a good coach. He's done a good job wherever he's been. He hasn't had most of the talent that other coaches have, but he gets a lot out of what he has. And I think Kentucky's one of those teams that will upset somebody. I don't think they're going to make too much noise, but I look for them to have maybe one or two games where they come in and do something they shouldn't do.
Rich Brooks said he'll have his best defensive team that he's ever had. That's the supposed to be good news. We'll see how that works out. I know the Kentucky players are a little delusional. One of the Kentucky defenders that was there said that he thinks they'll have one of the best defenses in the conference.
Yeah,
I'm not buying that.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got who you got fourth? Vanderbilt sixth, Kentucky fifth. Who you got fourth?
I'm gonna go with South Carolina. I just think the South Carolina is good. They got a great coach, but they're also lacking a little bit of talent, and I don't know. They've had some changes on defense. They lost their coordinator. They've hired a guy late. They lost their coordinator. He ended up leaving right at the last minute and had to hire a guy that was their second choice, who had already taken the job at Arkansas and was there about a month. But anyway, I think Steve Spurrier will do some things, but again, he's middle of the pack this year to me.
I just think that Spurrier guys are kind of, I think his time's just kind of wearing thin. I just don't think he's as passionate about it as he once was. I think he's trying to pass the baton to his son, and I just don't think he is really as much into it as he once was. I really believe that.
Who can tell me who South Carolina's offensive coordinator is?
Steve Spurrier Jr. Yeah.
Okay.
He doesn't have nothing to give you for that. All right, third place. We've got Tennessee in third. I just think, agree with me or not, but
this is my dark horse. This is my dark
Tennessee?
horse. Yeah, I do.
Let me tell you why I think they're third, and why I think that the teams that win the SEC traditionally get the best quarterback play. Now, you can just look at it year in and year out. That's how it works. Now, there are some exceptions to that, but not many. The team that normally wins the Southeastern Conference gets the best quarterback play. You could make the argument last year wasn't the case. That obviously the Heisman Trophy winner, Tim Tebow, Florida got the best quarterback play, LSU won the league. But very few exceptions to that rule, Charlie. If you look back all the way through Jason Campbell and all the guys, the team that gets the best quarterback play wins it, and Tennessee's got an inexperienced quarterback. I think Crompton's a good player, but I don't think he's a guy that's going to carry that team to a title.
No, but I just think that they have enough talent around him. And, you don't have to be a great quarterback. A lot of times when I was a quarterback, I certainly wasn't a great quarterback. Coach just told me, don't lose the game for you. Don't do anything that's going to lose the game.
They got Philip Fulmer to do that.
Get the ball to Cribs, Brooks, and Andrews at the right time, and all you got to do is get out of the way. But don't lose the game for us. And he's got enough talent. I think Foster is probably as talented a running back as there is in the country.
But, Charlie, don't you agree, though? I mean, you look at it, and Josh Moon brings this up on our show. I think Philip Fulmer has been at his best when David Cutcliffe has been at his side. And David Cutcliffe is, again, not at his side. And I want to see what Fulmer can do offensively without Cutcliffe, because they were good with him before. He left. They were bad. They brought him back. They were good. He's gone again. I'm not so sure how good.
Well, I mean, at Tennessee, bad is relative now because, the bad years, they may have been, 7-4 or something like that. But, I mean, at Tennessee, when they were not good and they were not in the SEC championship game, they were still having some 9-3 seasons.
All right, let's go move. Number 2, who you got?
I think Tennessee has got the talent to do some things and to win some games just like they did last year against Georgia. Georgia had better talent, but Tennessee beat that game was not close. It's 35-14. It was not nearly as close as the score.
And then we remember what happened in Tuscaloosa, too.
Yeah, but I'm just saying.
The last game Alabama won.
Yeah, but I'm just saying I think that Tennessee has the ability to do something. You just watch Tennessee, a win they're not supposed to have this year.
All right, Florida, Georgia. Who wins the East?
I'm going to say Georgia because I like Matthew Stafford. I think Tim Tebow is the best pure athlete I've seen maybe since Bo Jackson. I mean, do y'all realize that Tim Tebow had 32 touchdown passes last year and 23 rushing touchdowns, 55 touchdowns himself? I mean, that's more than most teams have in a whole season, just him personally. So this guy's unbelievable, but you saw what LSU did to him. They slowed him down. If you've got a great defense and if you can cover and if you can match up with their skill players, you can slow Florida down. Auburn did it, and LSU did it, and some of the better teams. You saw Michigan did it in the bowl game. But I don't think Matthew Stafford. I think Matthew Stafford. I'm high on him. I think he is. If he's not going to be one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the nation this year, I'll be very surprised. I think right now he's probably got as strong an arm as I've seen in college football in decades, and he is, to me, the difference maker on that team. You take Noshawn Marino off the team, and they're still a great team. You take Matthew Stafford off that team, and Georgia becomes a middle of the road team.
Let me promise you this: that Marino makes Stafford. Because
Marino
before Marino really came out in the midseason to late, Stafford struggled early in the year. When you got a guy who I think is the best back in the league back there with as talented a quarterback as Stafford.
You remember over at Auburn a couple of years ago, kind of a rainy day.
I don't remember anything that happens in Auburn.
Auburn should have beaten Georgia that day, and they came in with.
Excuse me. They got clobbered in that game.
They were favored and should. That was one of those games that Tommy Tuberville's
we call
team
those tubbies.
Didn't play up to their capability that day. But who was the true freshman quarterback out of Texas? Nobody knew about. Came in, played a great game.
That's right. I mean, he would play a great game, and then he would.
He didn't have Noshawn Marino that day.
But he also would have the next week a game that wasn't very good.
No, he hadn't had many games.
Let me promise you that his freshman year, he was as inconsistent as your analogies are.
Okay. But I'm telling you, Matthew Stafford has not had any bad games. He may have had a few interceptions here and there as a freshman. But, I mean, hey, listen.
Where's Trip Reynolds? Go research that.
No, listen, I'm telling you, Matthew Stafford's the real deal,
has not had
folks.
Any bad games.
He is my choice for the SEC Player of the Year.
Okay. You lost him back when you said he hadn't had any bad games. So we'll move along to the West. And we're going to leave Auburn and Alabama out because we're going to get the rest of the guys up here for that. But let's just look at each team. Mississippi State, what do you think seriously Sylvester Croom is going to be able to do at Mississippi State?
Sylvester Croom, he lost Ellis Johnson, his defense coordinator, so he's got a new defense coordinator coming in. Or actually, Charlie Harbison, he elevated him to defensive coordinator. But Woody McCorvey's still there. And, guys, Sylvester Croom has a stable program there. He has a stable program. He has been the head coach there how many years now?
I think 4. I think this will be his 4th year.
Is this his 4th year?
I believe
I thought it was more than that.
What year is it?
5th year.
5th year? This is his 5th one? He's had 4?
But he's gotten progressively better year by year. He obviously does not play with the same kind of talent that the Floridas and the Georgias and the Auburns and some of the other teams have on their squads, but he gets a lot out of his players. Now, I don't like the way he wears his hat. I think he looks – I don't know. Somebody needs to talk to him about his grooming. Have y'all seen his hat, the way he wears that hat? That's the oddest looking thing I've ever seen. But
you lost him back when you said Stafford hadn't had a bad game.
But anyway. But I think Sylvester Croom is a great motivator. I don't think he's a great coach during the game. I don't think he's a great on the field coach. But I think he's a good on the field coach. I think he gets in the tight games, games that he's got to make those critical decisions that might make or break, a season for Mississippi State. I would not look for him to make.
Let's talk about Ole Miss. You got Houston
Man,
Nutt,
what
a
a
really
wild
really
situation.
weird situation.
Good
Houston
Lord.
Nutt now at Ole Miss.
Yeah.
I saw something today. A friend of mine sent me, and the cover of the Ole Miss media guide, John and Barry and Josh will talk about this, has a huge picture of Houston Nutt on the front on one knee with a football, and superimposed in the back is a picture of the Grove and all the Ole Miss fans coming through it, and on the little arch thing it says the Grove. And the picture that was sent to me, that's photoshopped out, and it says me, all the way around over Houston Nutt. And it's kind of funny, but he has the perception of kind of bringing attention to me. It's all about me, and my team is all about me too.
Houston Nutt has always been kind of a favorite of mine. I'll tell you, Mike Brock and I were seniors in high school, and Mike was 180 pounds, and Byron Braggs was about 200 and probably 60 pounds at the time, which would be like a 340-pounder now. And Mike was an offensive tackle, ended up at 270 at Alabama as an All-American. I never got touched that night. Byron Braggs never got in the backfield that night.
And that has what to do with Ole Miss.
But anyway, what I'm telling you about is Houston Nutt. Houston Nutt was a senior quarterback in Arkansas and was Coach Paul Bear Bryant's #1 choice as a recruit that year. That year there was Jeff Pyburn. There was, do you remember the kid Jimmy Streeter that played at Tennessee?
Skinny
Jimmy
boy,
Streeter.
very skinny.
And who remembers Chris Collinsworth? Chris Collinsworth, y'all remember him as a receiver, but in high school he ran like a 9.3 and he was a wishbone quarterback, played at Florida. And then Houston Nutt was recruited heavily by Alabama, and I remember I was talking to Stedman Shealy, and he and I were thinking about where we were going to school, and Stedman was thinking about going to Alabama. He was also thinking about going to Mississippi State. Rocky Felker was there at the time, and it depended on Houston Nutt's choice. So Alabama fans, you can thank a lot of that 78 national championship, 79 national championship with Stedman Shealy to Houston Nutt's decision to stay out of the state of Alabama in Arkansas. That's why Stedman ended up going to Alabama.
All right, back on target. Ole Miss is going to be. You lost
I like
them back when
those
you
stories.
Said, yeah.
All right. Well, anyway, okay. Look at Ole Miss and what they've got. I think Ed Ogeron had a very strong recruiting situation there. He did better than most people thought that he could. He had a great reputation coming out of USC. A lot of people thought that Coach Ogeron would not do a great job because, I mean, let's face it. I mean, no offense, Mike, but he's an offensive lineman. There aren't that many offensive linemen that become great head coaches. There are some, Philip Fulmer. There are some.
You said great head coaches.
Yeah. Well, anyway, but they're normally more position coaches and things like that. But Coach Orgeron, he to me is a great coordinator and a great motivator, but he's not a great head coach. But they get Houston Nutt, and he gets in there with a little bit of talent. And this is the Nutt. This is the West. SEC West is equivalent of Kentucky. They've got enough talent to do something. They're going to be dangerous on occasion because Houston Nutt is a great motivator.
I'm going to tell you, they got a running back.
And he makes people play harder and as hard as they can. It gets the most out of their.
Well, they got
talent.
a running back that Auburn thought they were going to have until signing day.
They sure did.
And he will be a super player in this league. All right, LSU and Arkansas. We'll talk about Arkansas first, and just to let you know, I just checked my little phone here, and Bobby Petrino still is the coach at Arkansas.
Yeah. Well, we need to check that in about 5 minutes, though.
He's planning on being there when the team arrives tomorrow.
Yeah. Anytime there's a plane flying, Bobby Petrino's involved in it somewhere.
Isn't that the truth? That's the truth. But I think Arkansas is going to struggle. I think it's going to take him a year or two to get his system.
I disagree.
I think Ole Miss is going to be better than Arkansas.
I disagree.
Year.
I disagree.
That's the best news I've had all day.
Well, let me tell you why. Okay? It does not take that long if you've got Bobby Petrino's offense to change a program. It doesn't take that long. He did it at Louisville, and he'll do it at Arkansas.
He better
that
have
program. Let me tell you, that offense, if you run it right, you do not have to have the greatest talent. Now, they had great quarterbacks at Brom and the other kid that was a quarterback, top-notch quarterbacks at Louisville. But I'll tell you this, He's a great offensive mind, and he will put points on the scoreboard. When Arkansas struggled, it's because people could stop the run. They will not be one-dimensional, and they're going to – all right, this is the deal. In the East, Tennessee's the dark horse. In the West, Arkansas is a dark horse. I'm thinking Arkansas is going to – I think instead of one or two upsets, I think Arkansas is going to have a good year. That's my surprise
We'll
prediction.
agree to disagree there. I think Ole Miss is my dark horse there. Quickly, LSU and Les Miles. Les Miles. Did you know that Les Miles wears a 7 1/8 inches fitted cap, but his head is 7 5/8 inches?
Yeah, he and Coach Sylvester Kroom are the two NCAA hat models, I think.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
And it's obviously it's cutting off a lot of the blood to the brain.
Yeah.
Because
I have never seen.
No disrespect intended, I have never seen a team win as much, or a guy win as many games as Les Miles does, and even his own fan base is going, God, when are we going to get rid of this guy?
Well, did you realize that his record is better at LSU than Saban's was? Now, of course, he played with a lot of Saban's players to start with.
Saban got there when they hadn't won more than 3 games in 3 years.
But I'm telling you, he's won 11 games, I think, 3 years in a row.
Yeah.
He's very confident, obviously, overconfident on occasion with his calls, in my opinion.
Stupid on other occasions.
But he's getting the thing about LSU is there's really not another program, Tulane, but there's not another program that they're really recruiting against in that state. In Auburn and Alabama, you're recruiting against each other, plus Florida's coming in and getting a player or two. Tennessee will get a player or two out of Alabama, Georgia. But if you're in Louisiana, we have to go in there and steal a player out of Louisiana every 3 or 4 or 5 years. Because they're all going to LSU, and then LSU for whatever
steal
reason,
or buy.
Yeah, I don't know, but for whatever reason, they end up recruiting in a tremendous fashion. The same way Auburn recruits in Georgia, they recruit in Texas. They have great success in Texas recruiting, and it really shows because every year it doesn't matter. You remember when the coaches were not great? Curly Hallman was there, and other people that were there, and they were not doing that. Their talent was outstanding. They have never. I don't remember, but maybe a period of 2 or 3 years in the last 20 years when you could say that LSU was not a terrifically talented team.
They do have talent because of where they get to recruit.
And you got to say that they're going to be. They've been there. These guys have been in the big games. They played in the SEC championship game.
Again,
but they don't have a quarterback.
And that goes back to my original statement.
And I think for whatever reason, now LSU. You look at their schedule. You can see, LSU. Their schedule. They've got some tough games away from home, but they get Auburn at home and they get Florida away. So those are the 2 big games for them.
Absolutely.
And so, Florida's been a tough game for them away. Auburn, playing them in Auburn has been a tough game for them.
Let's go ahead and bring the rest of the sports radio guys up here. John Longshore and Barry McKnight from Sports Radio 740 and my partner Josh Moon. Josh, let's talk Auburn and Alabama. What do you think? Tigers tied. What should we expect in state this year?
Really?
Really?
I would say the Tigers will win. I don't know.
Ladies and gentlemen, Josh Moon. Josh Moon, ladies and gentlemen. Big hand, all right?
I deal with that every single day.
We got to change it on Josh. Can we quote you on that?
Certainly, buddy. Go ahead.
No, as far as Alabama and Auburn season as a whole, do you think the predictions that we just got through with in Birmingham are fairly accurate? Most people think Auburn's going to win around 10, Alabama around 7 and 8.
I don't see why they would be wrong. I mean, I don't know where you would find more wins on the Alabama schedule, and I don't know where you would find more losses on the Auburn schedule.
You actually picked this yesterday, and you've got Auburn winning. You've got them losing to West Virginia, and then did you not have them losing to Tennessee?
I believe so, yeah. Either LSU or Tennessee. They'll lose one of those two.
And guys, comment on this, John, because the Tennessee LSU, that's an interesting setup there because the biggest game of the year, guys, obviously for Auburn, is on the 20th of September. Yes. I mean, that's huge. Yes. And remember the game in Auburn 2 years ago. It was a bloodbath. I mean, it was as brutal a college football game as I've ever seen. I think Tennessee, John, comes into Auburn at a perfect time, which is 7 days later.
I do too, Doug. I think they're catching Auburn at a great time right after that big LSU game. And, Charlie, I do want to tell you, I'm with you on Tennessee. I think they're a dark horse this year in the SEC Eastern Division. But, yeah, that's huge for Auburn. Those two games in week 4 and 5, Doug, if Auburn gets by that duo right there, it's clear sailing until they get to Athens.
You look at that trio of games, folks. You got Mississippi State, and even if you beat Mississippi State, you get beat up because that is a very physical game. And then you look at LSU, that's going to be physical. In Tennessee, those 3 games in a row, that obviously is going to tell the tale a good bit about Auburn's season. If Auburn can get through that, number one, and win the games, or win at least 2 of those games, but the more important thing is get through those games and still be healthy and have everybody ready to go the rest of the season. That's tough.
And Barry, talking about being in perfect spot, after at Mississippi State, LSU and Tennessee, Auburn's got to be thinking, wow, finally a week off. We get to travel to Nashville and play Vandy, and you just never know what could happen in a situation like that. Josh, talk about Auburn's quarterback situation. I know that you're talk with J.G. Tate a lot. Y'all are friends. He's there every day. Chris Todd, Cody Burns. Do you feel that the Auburn coaches are going into this season or into practice that starts in a couple days knowing who they really want to be the quarterback, or is it truly wide open and they'll wait and see what happens on the field?
I think they know who they would like to have as quarterback, and I think they always wanted Todd to be the quarterback there because I think that he fit Franklin, and Franklin liked him from a long way back. But I think Burns beat him out at the end of the year, and I think it'll be interesting to see if he's healthy, what they do. If Todd is healthy, what they will do with that, because I know Franklin likes him. I know Franklin thinks he is the most adept quarterback for that offense that has come along in a long time.
Charlie, is Chris Todd healthy? I think is the main thing.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, he played, a junior college ball, and he played at Texas Tech. And he actually played and did well at Texas Tech, but transferred to a small school, junior college, and ended up being sacked and hurt his right shoulder. It was a little bit more serious injury than they had anticipated it to be. And his rehab, he didn't have surgery, but his rehab, I don't think he had surgery, did he?
No,
his rehab did not go that well, and he tried and started, and he came to Auburn for the spring practice, tried a little bit too early to get out there, and he never really had his arm strength. And it gave, I think, the Auburn coaches, and maybe even Coach Franklin, a little bit of a bad taste in their mouth about his abilities, because it didn't really reflect what he can really do. Because he's got great talent, he's got a great strong arm, but he just wasn't able to do what he could do.
Auburn, I totally believe, and we'll get everybody's feel about it, but I think Auburn, to be quite honest, plays Georgia twice. That's my feel. I think Auburn's going to play Georgia in the regular season, and I think Auburn's going to play Georgia in Atlanta. Let's talk about Alabama. We'll all shut up and let John do that.
Well, I tell you, 7-6 isn't going to cut it. That's not what they're paying Nick Saban $4 million to do, is to have a 7-6 football team. But I think you look at the 12 games they play, I think there's 6 of them on there that you would expect Alabama to win. I think a lot of people thought that last year, but the month of November has not been good for the Crimson Tide, and they certainly need to shake that this year with a game in Baton Rouge. And they have Mississippi State at home and Auburn at home. But I tell you guys, and I've heard people talk about this really all summer long, I really believe that the opening game against Clemson will be huge for this Alabama football team because of what happened really over the last couple of years in the month of November. They limped in. They went to a bowl game that probably half the people here don't even remember who they played. Barry, who'd they play in the bowl game? Because I don't even remember. Yeah, Colorado in the Poulan Weed Whacker Bowl. So they need to start off on a good foot to beat Clemson. I think it gives this team a shot in the arm to say, hey, okay, maybe we can get something done. If they lose, I think they might limp back home to Tuscaloosa, doubting themselves, looking themselves in the mirror, wondering, wow, are we going to be 7-6 again? Is this another year of rebuilding and struggling? So I think it's a national spotlight game. It's one that Alabama can really set the tone for. So if they beat Clemson, I think things look good, even going to Fayetteville. I think they can beat this Arkansas team because I'm not obviously when you don't have Felix Jones and Darren McFadden at your disposal, that's a huge help for the opponent. Still not sold on Arkansas's quarterback spot. So I think Alabama, if they can beat Clemson, have a good shot at being undefeated when they go to Athens. Of course, that's when it'll stop. I think Athens, Georgia's just too talented. I think Georgia will beat Alabama. Going up to Knoxville, as I said, I think Tennessee's going to be a surprise team this year. I think there's a lot of pressure for Tennessee to get back to the championship game. It's been a dry spell up there. Doug, I thought you made a good point about David Cutcliffe not being there, and I think Philip Fulmer wants to prove he can win at Tennessee without him. We'll have to certainly see about that. But I think there's 6 games that Alabama is their season. Clemson, Arkansas, Georgia, Tennessee, LSU, and Auburn. If they can win 2 of those 6, they should end up 8-4. If something goes right, they possibly could be 9-3. But I think 8-4 is about as good as they're going to be able to be this year.
And of course, Josh is convinced they're going to lose one. Josh thinks that Nick Saban loses one of those games every year that you would never count on them losing. Which one's it going to be?
Take your pick between Tulane, Kentucky, Ole Miss, and Arkansas State. Being that Arkansas State is in November, I'm going to go with Arkansas State.
There you go. All right, guys, real quick. Auburn, Alabama prediction. What happens when these two teams face each other on Auburn's secondary home field in Tuscaloosa?
Yeah, I was about to say they do play. Alabama has to play Auburn at Auburn's home field. That'll be a very interesting game to see where those teams are at that point. I think Auburn ends up with 10 wins, maybe 9. I think Auburn wins that game. I think Nick Saban's turned the corner and all that, but they're not there yet. And this season will be certainly some progress, but they're not over the hump.
Auburn.
Yeah.
All right, Charlie.
Yeah, I think if you had to say the strengths of teams, a lot of times are on their lines. I think Auburn's offensive line, they bring a lot of talent back. They've got a very talented duo in true freshmen. And Ziemba was one of them last year, and they're coming in, and they've got Tyrone Green's an excellent player. Got a really good group of experienced players, and then I think Senderick Marks anchors a good defense on the line, and then we got talent at linebacker. I think it's probably going to be as talented a linebacker core with Blackman and Stevens and some of those guys that we've had. Antonio Coleman on the corner coming off the Russian. I like the lines, and so for that reason, and I know Alabama's got their strengths as well, and Auburn's got the good running backs. I think if we can get good play out of the quarterbacks, I think the Auburn team could be a very big year for Auburn.
All right, Auburn in that game. John?
Has Alabama scored a touchdown against Auburn in Bryant-Denny yet?
Yes, they have.
Yeah,
As a matter
they
of
finally
fact.
got some points on the
17-7
board.
game, yeah.
Finally, we're able to get in the end zone. I didn't think I'd ever say this in 44 years, and I actually have said it publicly before, and I'll say it again tonight. I think Alabama's #1 priority now is to beat Auburn.
Are the cameras rolling? Are we running? Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you very much.
It's been a 6-year dry spell. They've beaten Tennessee. They've been to bowl games, won those, this, that, and the other. But they have got to end this streak. They have got to beat Auburn. I'm sure Nick Saban is fully aware of that. How long, we're about due for a wrong way Bo type game, or a, Rory Turner wax that dude game, or, even a block punt or a Van Tiffen type game. Maybe this is the year because.
Block punt, that sounded good.
Yeah, well, just a kind of a quirky type of game, Obviously, Auburn has more talent. I think they're the more athletic football team, and on paper they should beat Alabama. But I think it's time for something strange to happen. I think Nick Saban's is feeling the pressure, knowing what priority #1 is.
You got Alabama.
I'm going to take Alabama in a squeaker to finally beat Auburn in Tuscaloosa.
Josh, what do you got?
That is shocking.
Yeah.
Surprising. Never saw that coming. Should I tell some story to wrap all the way around and get back to the point, or should I just go ahead and tell?
No, I just go ahead, straight to the point.
If you want to talk about Houston Nutt beforehand, you can, Because I know Charlie was.
Well, he is the reason that I'm here today.
Yes, I hear you.
Yeah. I'll take the team with more talent. That's all I'm saying.
You're taking the team with more talent.
Yeah.
So you're going with Auburn.
I'm going to go with Auburn.
All right, that's 3-1. And if ever I was going to change a pick that I've already made publicly, it would be right now. But I'm going to side with my old radio partner. I think Alabama ends the streak this year in Tuscaloosa. I don't know how. I don't know why. I just got a feeling. I'm not going to break it down position by position and all this stuff.
You're just going to put it out there and let it work itself out.
I just think they score more points. Again, we appreciate everybody being here. Thanks a lot. Sports Radio 740. You can check us out each and every day. John and Barry are on from 7 until 10 every morning. And Josh and I are on from noon until 2 every afternoon.